Heavy on energy issues tonight, and the Ghana National Petroleum Commission (GNPC) says the first of planned shutdowns of the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah on the Jubilee field is expected to begin on Thursday, February 1. 3 planned shutdowns are expected to make way for operators on the field to embark on a general maintenance exercise on the vessel this year. Lead engineer at the GNPC, Albert Longdon-Niwan, said this at the dissemination workshop in Accra. Meanwhile, head of the Real Sector and Energy Unit at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Joseph Asenso, has downplayed any negative impact on revenue projections. There's more in this report.
According to partners on the Jubilee field, the 3 shutdowns in 2018 have become necessary due to the recent challenges faced by the floating production and storage of floating vessel, also known as the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah. The first shutdown begins on Thursday, 1st February, and expected to resume full work on 21st of February. The second shutdown will follow on 19th March and end on the 17th of April, with the last shutdown expected in November this year. The Jubilee partners are, however, assuring there may not be any shutdown in 2019 if all programs are carried out successfully on the FPSO because of the expected outcome from these maintenance works. In an interview with Joy Business, head of the Real Sector and Energy Unit at the Ministry of Finance, Dr. Joseph Asenso, allays fears of any negative impact as a result of the shutdown.
We were very much aware of the pending shutdown. So all these projections were factored in when we were doing the GDP projections and the petroleum revenue projections as well. We anticipated a period of 10 weeks of shutdown. However, the shutdown was deferred to this year. That is why you would realize, partly because of this, GDP has gone beyond what we actually projected in 2017. Petroleum revenues also did much better than we had projected in the same year. This year, we are anticipating about 9 weeks of shutdown, as GNPC alluded to. And that has already been factored in our projections by way of petroleum revenue, by way of GDP. So these have been adequately catered for.
According to him, the program is a planned one and therefore will also not have any effect on revenue projections for the year.
Looking at Jubilee of about 89,000 barrels per day last year, which is coming to about 68,000 barrels per day. You multiply that by a price of 65. Our price was about 57.36. That should give you the revenue base. But it's been catered for in the budget, so it shouldn't be a drag on the budget this year.
Okay, so moving forward into 2019, are we still going to be having these shutdowns?
Our hope is that the FPSO turret remediation project would be concluded this year. The major works which require shutdown will be done this year, and that should not affect 2019 and 2020 by way of projections and production.
The annual workshop is a requirement in the Petroleum Revenue Management Law, giving way for the Ministry of Finance to engage stakeholders on the report of petroleum funds.
In another development, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been speaking about the halt of production at the Tema Oil Refinery on the 18th of January. Now, the shutdown, which was earlier reported by the Institute of Energy Security, IES, attributed it to the persistent leadership crisis at the State Oil Refinery. In an interview, the Finance Minister debunked any leadership crisis and that the incident which took out about 20,000 barrels has been resolved. He noted that government was keen to position Ghana as a petroleum hub on the continent.
As you know, TOR was to do, 45,000 barrels per day. There was an unfortunate incident which took out about some 20,000 barrels, but that has been restored. So we expect, TOR to be back in good operation form. We are even thinking of improving that to maybe 60,000 barrels, so that work is being thought through. And then also there was a trip to Asia to look at Ghana as a petroleum hub, and so that's been assessed. So I think for us, how to position the country as a hub in many things is being thought of. So these may be issues have occurred, but I'm comfortable. I met with the board actually yesterday and to give them further support. But I think the leadership is really good, and I'm looking forward to Mr. Osei running this company very well.
Any strategic investor on board to help with the situation?
Well, Ghana Beyond Aid subscribes us to be quite dependent on our skill set. I think when we need them, they'll come. But I think if you go to TOR and speak to the leadership, you'll be very comfortable with the expertise that we have.
Well, the Institute of Energy Security, which first broke the story about TOR a couple of days ago, had earlier called on the Ministry of Energy and the government to pay special attention to the country's only refinery by addressing the leadership crisis. The IAS wondered why, after a delayed turnaround maintenance for 9 months, TOR had to undergo a forced shutdown as a result of non-compliance to procedures and practice. Principal researcher of the Institute, Richmond Roxon, earlier spoke on the marketplace with host Emmanuel Awajiriafe.
The managers of the refinery will be bold and they'll be truthful enough to come out to tell you exactly what caused the delay. You will know clearly that was basically because of poor maintenance. That because we didn't plan carefully before we started the turnaround maintenance, that is why we have these challenges. And for us, it is important that once the refinery comes back on stream, the refinery will work diligently, because the thermal oil refinery has capacity and also has a viable market in West Africa. In Ghana alone, we consume about 9 million liters daily, and the refinery is not even able to meet our daily consumption. What this means is that the refinery has very good market. Easily, it can be a hub where other countries or other institutions will even bring crude oil to the refinery to be refined into other finished products where we'll make some good money. So we are really concerned about the state of the refinery, because if you come back on 2nd of January 2018 and 2 weeks after, that is 18th of January 2018, you have the refinery shutting down because of the residue air cooler EA64 tubes, which forced the shutdown on the plant. Or if you start the refinery after a turnaround maintenance, definitely you should have a pre-turnaround maintenance report and a post-turnaround maintenance report. If you don't do this and you start the refinery, you start the plant, then right after you start, you realize that there's a leakage in the stabilizer reboiler, that is heat exchanger E19, forcing the crude distillation unit to shut down. And then you'll be concerned that all of us as industry players should be worried, and we should be able to demand from the managers why these things are happening and call the Ministry for Energy.
All right, we are getting some more reaction to this story from the Executive Director of KIDE, Ishmael Ejekun-Hene, who spoke via Skype on the marketplace as well, advocating a private-public arrangement to administer effective operations at TOR.
Most refineries are privately owned, but now until we let go TOR, it's still a state entity. Let's see how we can make it work. If divestiture is the way forward, let's consider that. But at the moment, I think we should focus on getting it operational. My main concern is that if it's not efficient, then pumping more money into it wouldn't serve anybody's purpose. I think the main motivating factor why everybody will want TOR to continue to exist is the job opportunities that it also affords. But in terms of best practice, I think most refineries in the States, for example, in Rotterdam, are privately owned and they are not state-owned.
If we are to go the private way, under what kind of arrangement should that be? Is it an entire takeover by the private sector or a PPP arrangement?
Well, I'm not even too sure whether the private sector will be about TOR. Unless we're going to take over all the liabilities and stuff like that. But I think there are various models that could be looked at if we decide to. I think we can start off with a PPP, then later on subsequently see if we want, as a government, want to even remain in that space or not. But let me just to say a little about what the Dr. Rosen said. You know, if there is, think it's a technical issue that people overlook certain things. I will call for a full investigation because look, this is costing the state money. Let's find out exactly why there's a forced shutdown, who is to blame, and then before we start looking at the leadership, I can assure you are not technical people. They are just managers, and they always defer to the technical people. Let's find out why, because after 9 months, like I said in the beginning, this is not acceptable, and all the costs associated even the shutdown, this thing has to stop once and for all.
Well, still on oil matters, government is likely to start hedging the country's oil imports under a new risk management strategy. The Reuters news agency in its report quotes the finance ministry as the source of this move. There's more in this report.
According to the Reuters news agency, the move is to help keep government's program of matching its revenue with expenditure in check as crude oil prices on the international market continues to increase. It is currently trading at around $65 a ton. Reuters, for instance, quotes sources close to the finance ministry are saying government is working on a comprehensive oil risk management strategy to ensure they remain on track. Buying some call options is most likely, giving strong indication that it is to hedge using futures contracts. Some analysts believe the holder of the call option has the discretion to assume a long position in crude futures at a strike price. Hedging has been described by some as a strategy used to limit the risk that volatilities in crude prices may pose to an economy or company. Now, depending on the option that is used, some have described it as an insurance program that would immune one from the expected shocks. Others have also described as a gamble and expensive venture. Government last year spent $12.6 billion to finance oil imports, down by $3 million from what it spent in 2016.
Well, before we move away from oil matters, we want to bring you some short infographic about the TOR Oil Refinery. Interesting information about the company's operations. Take a look at this. Well, still pushing on Business Live, this time up north, and the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana, Robert Jackson, has announced that the U.S. government is investing $498 million in the second Millennium Compact to transform the power sector. $66 million of that amount will be invested in the Northern Electricity Company, NEDCO, to make it efficient and self-sustaining. The move, according to the U.S. Ambassador, is to create the enabling environment for businesses to thrive. Ambassador Robert Jackson was speaking at the University for Development Studies in WA.
American Ambassador to Ghana, Robert P. Jackson, has been touring the trade regions of the North, interacting with duty bearers, traditional rulers, members of civil society groups, and students. As part of the tour, he delivered a speech at the WA campus of the University for Development Studies, which centered on Ghana-United States relationship and scholarship opportunities for the students. Ambassador Robert P. Jackson said the U.S. government will partner with the government of Ghana to help create the enabling environment for businesses to thrive. One area the U.S. government will focus on will be to build a strong and efficient power sector.
Unreliable and inadequate power stifles economic growth. In fact, economic research shows that Ghana's economy lost more than $24 billion between 2010 and 2016 as a result of doomsor. If your business can't operate due to a lack of electricity, you can't make a profit. If you have no profit, it's the end of your business, and it's the end of your employees' incomes as well. With the second Millennium Challenge Compact, we're investing $498 million to transform the power sector. $66 million of that will be invested in NEDCO, into making it an efficient and self-sustaining utility, and one that can spearhead economic growth here in northern Ghana.
Ambassador Robert Jackson commended the government for the implementation of the free HHS program, remarking that the more educated citizens are, the more likely they are to be integrated to the economy and to produce stable democracy. He concluded his speech challenging the students to resist from corrupt acts and also expose people who engage in corruption and report them to the appropriate authorities for them to face justice.
We must ensure that those who profit from exploiting people are caught and punished severely. They are criminals. What they're doing is evil. They're stealing people's lives. They're stealing Ghana's future. We have ongoing programs working with local communities, law enforcement, and the judiciary to help identify and rescue victims and capture and punish perpetrators. We're working with law enforcement on corruption investigations. But I challenge you to think about what you know and whether law enforcement knows it. We believe in the possibility of Ghana beyond aid. In fact, I believe in the inevitability of Ghana beyond aid. If we are relentless in the fight against injustice, that day will be here sooner rather than later.
Reporting for JoyNews, Rafik Salam.
Government is to establish a board for the cashew industry later this year. This should happen after President Akufo-Addo launches a 10-year development plan for the cashew industry next month at Wenchi in the Bono-Afo region. The move, according to the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, is to help better regulate activities in the sector. Eric Amakuchum is Deputy Chief Executive of the authority.
That is meant to happen on the 20th of February in Wenchi. And some work has actually already been done in respect to that. I think that in the last few years, there's been several attempts to regulate that particular sector, and then also make sure that we place a lot of emphasis on it because of its potential and the fact that it actually also provides a lot of employment. And then, like I indicated earlier, there's a lot of potential in terms of one, increasing the production of the crop itself, the processing facilities that abound, and of course the jobs that it creates, both direct and indirect jobs. Cashew globally actually has a 10 to 14% increase in demand every year. And for us, we feel that if we're able to give it some focus, would actually in the next 10 to 15 years would be competing with cocoa as one of the major export products that we have. There's going to be a setting of a cashew development board, and that is something that's also going to be part as an integral part of the plan to make sure that the various aspects of the value chain is taken care of, and then of course there's regulation.
In other news, some potential beneficiaries of the LEAP facility, mostly in the hinterlands, are unable to access the facility due to the lack of internet services. The Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System wants the system improved to facilitate the registration and payment process. This came to light during a visit to payment centers in Kumasi by the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection, Afisa Otiko Jaba. My colleague Nana Sensu-Mensah has more in this next report.
The Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, which supervises the process, urges government to ensure internet services are improved for smooth operation. Felix Krantiado is Ashanti Regional Representative.
I think with the network services, little can we do as a company, because it's the responsibility of the Ministry of Communication to make sure that the marks they install at every point should have data on it, not voice. Voice is good, but data is more needed. So when the banks normally have issues when they go to the rural areas to an issue, that is where we have the only challenge. But with the e-switch payment, there's offline mode that they can pay, which we are doing now as I'm speaking with you. So the people are having access to their money, but it would be better if the network was okay.
In some instances of poor network, people are buzzed to centers with access for registration. Some officials of the program urge government for improved services.
All right, but when it comes to the registration, where you go to a place and there's no telecommunication network, it becomes a big problem. Mostly there's nothing you can do about that one. You don't have a choice. Sometimes they need to improve their services, especially around the farm plains area and those ends. Most of the time you go there and there's no network at all. And you have to bring the people sometimes like 10 kilometers away from their abode. Bring them like, some of them like 20 kilometers and all that away from where they live in order to be able to register them.
Kumasi Metropolitan Deputy Director of Social Welfare, Godfred Abogo, admitted the impact of the bad network on the program. He assures of improved mechanism to address the situation.
It slows down the payment a little bit. Sometimes when we are dealing with huge numbers, we may have to reschedule the payment or pay as and when the network is up and running. So that's the little hitches maybe the network poses to the payment of the we do review and problem assessment all the time. So in our reporting, we will capture inside that they should try and improve the network. The network providers should help improve the network so that we can have this payment going.
Madam Otiko Jaba advised the public to watch out for imposters and other fraudsters who would want to subvert the program.
They've created an account in my name, or they use their own names and say that Otiko Jaba says bring 521 Ghana and then you'll be given a job. We are not an employment agency or motorbikes or that will put you on leave. So pay 521. People are very vulnerable. When you do that, you are cheating Mother Ghana. And so every day for Tifman, one day for Ghana, you will be caught because these are very vulnerable people you are stealing from. But please, society, the Ministry of Gender does not pay anybody through MTN mobile money. They use mobile money token, they call it token. So when you pay it, then they drop the card. So even if you're looking for them, you can't find them. But you should not allow yourself to be conned. If you are looking for a job, you don't have money. Why would you pay 521 Ghana cedis for a form? It's unheard of. And that for filling the form, another 520. So you pay 1,000 cedis. It's unheard of.
Reporting for JoyNews, Nana Asensumensa.
Time to bring you our interview of the day, and Ghana has secured 175 million euros from the EU to help transform the economy. The fund is coming under the European partners' joint cooperation strategy aimed at supporting the Ghanaian economy. The funds would be disbursed over the next 7 years and would target 4 key programs like public financial management, climate change and rural development. William Hanna is head of the EU delegation to Ghana.
Interview of the day.
Available for a certain period. And they include everything that we're doing in Ghana and regionally to try and support the EPAs, like, for example, building roads. Building roads links countries together, allows goods to flow, and so those projects are going well. So that's the infrastructure part. What we were discussing here today was new funds particularly for agriculture, and about half of our assistance is going to agriculture, and it's targeted to the north of the country. And it will be working on infrastructure such as feeder roads and dams, that type of infrastructure, which is very much needed in the north and in the upper west of the country to make sure that farmers can get their produce to market.
Can we quantify how much you've been able to draw so far from the fund in terms of the economic partnership agreement that was established for countries like Ghana that might be exposed to any shocks?
I don't have today the latest figure. The latest figure I heard was it was on target. to be drawn for all of the funds to be drawn down by the end of the period. So as you know, development projects, if they're working on infrastructure, they typically have a life of 3 to 5 years. You start up a road and you do the first part and then the second part, so they take a certain while. My understanding is that those projects are going well and going according to schedule, and so that all of those funds will be drawn down on time.
What do you make of the minister's comments and concerns about moving Ghana beyond aid? Are you, as a development partner, satisfied that there's some level of commitment on your partner's side to improve taxes and all the rest, to make sure that there's value for money, even with respect to what you give it to it?
Yeah. Well, as I was saying earlier, I think the move to try and change the relationship between development partners and countries like Ghana it's been over a long period, but we see definitely a commitment to this beyond aid vision.
And that's Business Live tonight. My name is Darryl Carl. Thanks for watching.